This is the apparatus for this experiment. First, the containers are cleaned and labeled as A, B and C. Next, the mass of the containers was obtained and marked as M1. Make sure your ice is perpendicular with the weighing scale. Next, range about 200 to 250 grams of soil into the container. The mass of the soil and container was obtained and marked as M2. Repeat the steps for the two other containers. Then the specimen was brought to the oven for drying. The specimen was put into the oven carefully and leave it overnight. Next, the mass of the specimens were obtained and marked as M3. This is the apparatus for this experiment. First, the bottles was cleaned and labeled as 1, 2 and 3. Next, the mass of the bottles were obtained. Then, range about 15 to 20 grams of soil into the bottles. The mass was obtained and recorded. The steps are repeated for the two other specimens. Next, carefully pour the water into the bottles. Then the specimens were left for 2 hours. Next, pour the water half of the bottle and apply partial vacuum to remove the entrapped air. Next, the bottle was filled with the water completely and the stopper was put. Next, keep the bottles in water bath for 1 hour. The bottles were taken out and cleaned properly. Then the mass of the bottles were obtained and recorded. Repeat the step for the other bottles. Next, the bottles were emptied and cleaned properly. The bottles were wiped cleanly. Then the bottles were filled with the water and the mass were obtained and recorded. This is the apparatus for this experiment. First, the dry soil were put into the container. Next, the mass of all sieves were obtained and recorded. Next, size of the whole sieve were recorded using a ruler. Then, the sieve was placed on the container and the sieve was performed. The mass of the sieve was obtained. The steps are repeated for all sieves until the smallest one. This is the apparatus for this experiment. The specimens were labeled as A, B and C. Next, the height and diameter of the cans were obtained and recorded. The mass of each cans were obtained. Next, the ground surface were cleared. Then the can was placed on the ground carefully. Tiles was placed on the can as a dolly and hammered into the ground. Then, by using excavating tools, the soil beside the can was excavated out so that the specimen can be reached. All steps were repeated for the other specimen. Next, the extra soil on the can was trimmed and the mass was recorded. All steps were repeated for the other specimens. This is the apparatus for this experiment. First, the bottles were labeled 1, 2 and 3. The sound was put into each of the bottles and data was recorded. Next, the soil was compacted. And don't forget to take the diameter of the bottles. Then the bottles were filled with the water to fully soak the soil. The steps were repeated for the other specimens. Then the water was poured into the bottle, and when the water level hit H1, the stopwatch was started. Then the time taken for watch level to flow from H1 to H2, H1 to H3 and H1 to H4 were recorded.